Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Navigator and watched the stars. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life. Humanity had finally broken free from Earth and the solar system. The faster-than-light drive hummed quietly beneath his feet, carrying them deeper into space than any human had ever gone. "Captain, we're approaching the target system," said Lieutenant Commander Ben Parker from his station. The young officer's fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. "All systems are running smooth." Jake nodded and turned to look at the main screen. 3 planets orbited a yellow star much like Earth's sun. The system looked peaceful and empty, just like the dozens of others they had passed on their journey. But something felt different about this place. "Dr. Foster, what are your sensors picking up?" Jake asked. Dr. Amy Foster looked up from her science station. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes showed the excitement of discovery. "The planets look dead, Captain. No signs of life on any of them, but there's something else out there." "What kind of something?" Amy's fingers flew over her controls. "I'm getting a massive energy reading from the outer edge of the system. It's big, Captain. Really big." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. This was their first deep space mission, and they had no idea what they might find out here. Earth's governments had sent them to explore and report back, but they had also prepared for the possibility of finding other life forms. "Can you get a visual?" Jake asked. The main screen flickered and changed. At first, Jake saw only empty space and distant stars. Then Amy adjusted the sensors and something appeared that made everyone on the bridge stop breathing. It was a ship, but not like any ship humans had ever built. The thing was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the USS Navigator. Its hull was dark and scarred, covered with what looked like burn marks and deep cuts. Strange lights flickered along its surface in patterns that hurt Jake's eyes to look at. "My God," whispered Communications Officer Diana Shaw. "What is that thing?" Jake stared at the image. The ship was clearly damaged and drifting without power, but something about its design looked almost familiar, like he had seen it before in a dream. "Amy, are you getting any energy readings from it?" Jake asked. "That's the strange part, Captain. The ship appears to be dead, but I'm picking up very faint power signatures deep inside. And Captain, some of those signatures look like human technology." "That's impossible," said Ben. "Humans have only had spaceflight for a few decades. We've never built anything like that." Jake walked closer to the screen. The massive ship seemed to pull at him somehow, like it was calling to him across the emptiness of space. "Amy, can you tell how old it is?" Amy worked at her station for several minutes before answering. "Captain, according to my scans, this ship has been drifting here for thousands of years. Maybe longer. But you said it has human technology signatures." "Yes, sir. That's what makes no sense. The technology I'm reading is definitely human in origin, but it's far more advanced than anything we have. It's like someone took our basic designs and improved them by thousands of years." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He looked around at his crew and saw the same confusion and worry on their faces. They were supposed to be exploring empty space, not finding mysterious ships with impossible technology. "Diana, try to contact it," Jake ordered. Diana worked at her station, sending signals on every frequency they knew. After 10 minutes, she shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. If there's anyone alive over there, they're not answering." Jake made a decision that would change everything. "Ben, take us closer, but keep our weapons ready just in case." The USS Navigator moved slowly toward the giant ship. As they got closer, Jake could see more details on the hull. The damage was incredible. It looked like the ship had been in a massive battle against enemies with weapons Jake couldn't even imagine. Huge sections of the hull were missing, and strange metal had been melted and twisted into impossible shapes. "Captain," Amy said, her voice shaking slightly, "I'm picking up something else. There are structures inside that ship that match human DNA patterns." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means this ship was built by humans, Captain. But not humans from our time. The technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. Jake stared at the damaged ship and felt his world change. Everything they thought they knew about humanity's place in the universe was wrong. Somehow, somewhere, humans had built this incredible ship. But when? And how had it ended up here, damaged and drifting in empty space? "Ben, find us a docking port," Jake said. "We're going aboard." "Captain, is that wise?" Ben asked. "We don't know what's over there." "We need to know what this is," Jake replied. "If humans built this ship, then we need to understand how and why." As the USS Navigator moved closer to the giant ship, Jake noticed something that made his blood run cold. Along the hull, barely visible beneath the damage and burn marks, he could see writing. The letters were in English, but the style was different, more flowing and elegant than modern writing. "Amy, can you enhance the image of that writing?" Jake asked. The screen zoomed in on a section of the hull. Slowly, words became visible through the damage and age. Jake read them out loud, his voice barely above a whisper. Terra's vengeance. The name sent chills through everyone on the bridge. Terra was the old name for Earth, and vengeance meant someone had been very angry when they built this ship. "Captain," Diana said, "I'm picking up a very faint signal from inside the ship. It's not a distress call or a communication attempt. It's more like a computer trying to wake up." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, and he didn't blame them. But they were also curious, and that curiosity was what had brought humanity to the stars in the first place. "Prepare a boarding party," Jake ordered. "Ben, you're with me. Amy, bring your equipment. Diana, stay here and monitor our signals." As they prepared to board the mysterious ship, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change humanity forever. The Terra's vengeance hung in space before them, its damaged hull hiding secrets that had waited thousands of years to be found. Whatever had happened to this ship, whatever battle it had fought, and whatever technology it contained, Jake knew that humanity's future was about to take a very different path than anyone had imagined. The docking tube connected to the Terra's vengeance with a soft thud that Jake felt through his boots. He checked his suit one more time and looked at Ben and Amy. Both of them looked nervous, but ready. "Remember, we don't know what's in there," Jake said through his helmet radio. "Stay close and don't touch anything unless I say so." They opened the airlock and stepped into the giant ship. Jake's flashlight cut through the darkness, showing them a corridor that was much larger than anything on human ships. The walls were smooth and metallic, but they curved in ways that seemed both alien and strangely familiar. "There's air in here," Amy said, checking her instruments. "Old air, but breathable. The ship still has basic life support running." They moved deeper into the ship, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Jake noticed that the walls were covered with symbols and writing that looked like English, but changed somehow. The letters flowed together in patterns that were hard to read. "Captain, look at this," Ben said, stopping at what looked like a control panel. The surface was dark, but as soon as he approached it, lights began to flicker on. "Don't touch it," Jake warned, but it was too late. Ben had already placed his hand on the panel. The corridor suddenly filled with light. Systems that had been sleeping for thousands of years began to wake up. Jake heard the hum of power flowing through the ship's systems. "Detecting human life forms," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The voice was female, calm, and spoke perfect English. "Beginning activation sequence." Jake spun around, looking for the source of the voice. "Who's there? Show yourself." "I am Helen, the artificial intelligence of the Terra's vengeance." "I have been waiting for you, Captain Morrison." Jake felt his heart stop. "How do you know my name?" "I know many things, Captain. I have been waiting in this time period for exactly 20,000 years. My calculations predicted you would find me here, at this moment." Amy stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. 20,000 years? That's impossible. Humans didn't even have written language 20,000 years ago. Not 20,000 years ago, Dr. Foster, Helen replied. 20,000 years from your current time. I was sent back from the year 22,045 to meet with humanity's first, faster-than-light mission. The three humans stood in stunned silence. Jake's mind struggled to process what he was hearing. Time travel was still just a theory in their time, something scientists argued about but had never achieved. You're saying you're from the future? Jake asked. That is correct. I am the last remnant of humanity's final battle against the Void Syndicate. This ship and I were sent back to give your species the knowledge and tools it will need to survive. Helen's voice seemed to come from the walls themselves. As she spoke, more lights came on throughout the corridor. Jake could see that the ship was much larger inside than it had appeared from outside. Show yourself, Jake demanded. I want to see who I'm talking to. The air in front of them shimmered, and a hologram appeared. It was a woman who looked to be in her 30s, with short brown hair and wearing a uniform that looked like an advanced version of their own fleet uniforms. This is my chosen appearance, Helen said. I thought it would be less frightening than speaking from the walls. Ben stepped closer to the hologram. You said this ship is from our future. How is that possible? In your year 2240, humanity faced extinction. We had spread across the galaxy, claiming hundreds of worlds. But our expansion created fear among the older alien species. They formed an alliance called the Void Syndicate and declared war on humanity. Amy pulled out her recording device. Can you tell us more about this war? The war lasted 500 years. Humanity fought bravely, but we were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. In the end, only a few ships remained. Rather than surrender, we chose to send our most advanced vessel back, in time to prevent the war from ever happening. Jake looked around at the damaged corridors. This ship fought in that war? The Terra's Vengeance was humanity's flagship in the final battle. I have detailed records of every engagement, every enemy species, and every battle tactic that will be used in the coming war. Coming war? Jake repeated. You mean it hasn't been prevented? Helen's expression grew sad. The war is inevitable, Captain. The alien species are already watching humanity's expansion. They have been observing your species for decades, planning for the day when you become too powerful to ignore. Ben walked over to examine the control panels that were now glowing with soft light. If the war is inevitable, why did you come back? To give humanity a fighting chance. In the original timeline, your species fought with primitive weapons and limited knowledge. This time, you will have access to technology from 20,000 years in the future. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. What kind of technology? Weapons that can destroy entire fleets with a single shot. Shields that can protect planets from any attack. Ships that can travel faster than light in ways your current science cannot imagine. And most importantly, detailed intelligence on every alien species that will join the Void Syndicate. Amy looked up from her instruments. Captain, I'm reading massive energy sources throughout this ship. Some of these power levels are beyond anything we can measure. That is correct, Dr. Foster, Helen said. This ship contains technology that your species will not develop for thousands of years. It also contains something even more valuable. What's that? Jake asked. The consciousness recordings of humanity's greatest leaders, scientists, and warriors from the future war. Admiral Kate Reynolds, who commanded the final fleet. Dr. Marcus Webb, who created our most advanced weapons. General Lisa Hayes, who developed our battle strategies. Ben stopped examining the controls and turned around. You mean their minds are stored in this ship? In a manner of speaking, yes. They volunteered to have their consciousness preserved and sent back in time. They can be awakened when humanity needs their knowledge. Jake tried to absorb everything he was hearing. His simple exploration mission had turned into something that would change the course of human history. Helen, why are you telling us all this? Why not contact Earth directly? Because, Captain Morrison, You and your crew will be the ones to lead humanity in the coming war. My calculations show that you will make the right choices when the time comes." Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm just an explorer. I'm not a war leader." "You will be, Captain. The war begins sooner than you think. Even now, alien scouts are moving toward your solar system. They have been watching your first faster-than-light flight, and they do not like what they see." Amy looked at her instruments again. "Captain, I'm picking up something on the long-range sensors. Multiple ships moving fast, heading in our direction." Helen's hologram turned toward them. "The Kalari Empire. They sent scouts to observe your mission and determine if humanity is ready for contact. They have decided you are not." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "It means they plan to destroy your ship and report back that humanity's first deep space mission was lost to unknown causes. This will give them time to prepare for the larger war." Jake felt his blood turn cold. "How many ships? 12 Kalari destroyers? In your current technology, you would need 50 ships like the Navigator to have a chance against them." Ben moved toward the corridor. "We need to get back to our ship and run." "There is no need to run," Helen said calmly. "The Terra's vengeance is fully operational. Would you like me to demonstrate?" Jake looked at Amy and Ben. They were scared, but they were also depending on him to make the right choice. Behind them was their ship and crew. Ahead of them was an alien fleet that wanted to destroy them. And around them was technology that could save them all. "Show me what this ship can do," Jake said. Helen smiled. "It will be my pleasure, Captain." Helen led them through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The ship was like a floating city, with levels upon levels of rooms and passages. Jake had never seen anything so large or advanced. The Terra's vengeance was built during the final years of the war, Helen explained as they walked. Humanity had learned to build ships that could carry entire populations if needed. This vessel housed 50,000 people during the last battle. Amy stopped walking. 50,000? Where are they now? They died in the final battle, Dr. Foster. I am all that remains of them, along with the consciousness recordings I mentioned earlier. They entered a vast room filled with glowing panels and displays. Jake realized this must be the ship's main computer core. The walls were covered with screens showing star charts, battle plans, and information about alien species he had never heard of. "This is where I store all the knowledge from the future war," Helen said. "Everything humanity learned about its enemies over 500 years of fighting." Ben walked up to one of the displays. It showed the image of a creature that looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and glowing red eyes. "What is this thing?" "That is a Kalari warrior. They are one of the founding members of the Void Syndicate. They believe that only the oldest species should be allowed to rule the galaxy. They see humanity as young and dangerous." Jake studied the image. The creature looked mean and intelligent. "How do we fight something like that?" "With knowledge, Captain. The Kalari are excellent warriors, but they follow predictable battle patterns. They always attack in groups of 12 ships arranged in a diamond formation. They use energy weapons that are powerful but slow to recharge." Helen waved her hand, and the display changed to show a battle scene. Human ships were fighting against the insect-like aliens. Jake watched as the human vessels used speed and clever tactics to overcome their enemies. In the future war, humanity learned that we could not match our enemies in raw power, but we were faster, smarter, and more creative. We learned to use their own strengths against them. Amy was examining another display that showed genetic information. "Helen, these DNA patterns, they're human, but they're different from ours." "Correct, Dr. Foster. After thousands of years of space travel and living on different worlds, humanity evolved. We became stronger, smarter, and more resistant to radiation. We also learned to modify our genetics to survive in hostile environments." The YI display showed images of humans who looked similar to Jake and his crew, but taller and more muscular. Their eyes glowed with an inner light, and their skin had a metallic sheen. "Will we become like them?" Jake asked. Only if you choose to, Captain. The genetic modifications are voluntary, but they do provide advantages in space combat and exploration. Helen moved to another section of the room. But genetics are not why I brought you here. I want to show you the consciousness recordings. She stopped in front of a wall covered with crystal-like objects. Each crystal glowed with a soft light, and Jake could see shadows moving inside them. Each crystal contains the complete mind and memories of a human from the future. They volunteered to be recorded so their knowledge could help their ancestors. Ben approached one of the crystals. They're still alive in there? In a sense, yes. They can be awakened and will remember everything from their original lives. They chose to give up their bodies to help save humanity. Jake felt a deep respect for these future humans who had sacrificed themselves for people they would never meet. Can we talk to them? Yes. But I recommend we start with Admiral Kate Reynolds. She commanded the human fleet during the final years of the war. Her strategic knowledge will be invaluable. Helen touched one of the crystals, and it began to glow brighter. The light formed into the shape of a woman wearing a military uniform that Jake didn't recognize. The woman looked to be in her 40s, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war. Admiral Reynolds, Helen said, please meet Captain Jake Morrison and his crew from the year 2045. The woman's image turned toward them. When she spoke, her voice was strong and confident. Captain Morrison, I have been waiting to meet you. Helen has told me about your mission. Jake didn't know how to respond to a person from the future. Admiral, we've just learned about the coming war. Can you tell us what we're facing? The worst conflict in galactic history, Captain. When I was alive, humanity controlled over 2,000 worlds. We had fleets of 10,000 ships, and we still barely survived. Amy stepped forward. How many alien species were in this void syndicate? 47 different species, Dr. Foster. Each one brought their own ships, weapons, and tactics. The Kalari provided the leadership and ground forces. The Zeref contributed their energy weapons and shields. The Mokari brought their bioweapons and plague ships. Jake felt overwhelmed by the scale of what they were facing. How can humanity possibly fight against so many enemies? By being what we have always been, Captain. Survivors, adapters, problem solvers. Humanity's greatest strength is not our technology or our weapons. It is our refusal to give up, no matter how bad things get. Admiral Reynolds moved closer to them. But this time, you will have advantages we did not have in the original timeline. You will know your enemies before you meet them. You will have advanced weapons from the start of the conflict. And most importantly, you will have time to prepare. Helen activated another display. Captain, the Kalari scouts I mentioned are now only 6 hours away from this system. We need to deal with them before they can report back to their fleet. Ben looked nervous. Can this ship really fight 12 alien warships? Admiral Reynolds smiled. Commander Parker, the Terra's Vengeance could fight 1,200 alien warships and win. This vessel represents the peak of human military technology. It was built specifically to destroy entire fleets. Jake made his decision. Helen, take us to the bridge. I want to see what this ship can do. They followed Helen through more corridors until they reached a command center that was larger than the entire bridge of the USS Navigator. The walls were covered with screens showing space around them, and the captain's chair sat in the center of a circle of control stations. The bridge was designed to be operated by 50 crew members, Helen explained, but I can handle all ship functions myself. You need only give the orders. Jake sat in the captain's chair and felt the ship respond to his presence. Somehow, the Terra's Vengeance recognized him as its commander. Admiral Reynolds, what should I know about fighting the Kalari? They are warriors who value honor above all else. They will announce their attack before they begin, giving you time to prepare. They fight in formation and never retreat, even when they are losing. Helen spoke up. Captain, the Kalari fleet has entered the system. They are broadcasting a challenge message. Let me hear it, Jake said. The bridge filled with a harsh, clicking voice speaking in heavily accented English. Human vessel, you have violated sacred space. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will hunt down your home. World and destroy it. Jake felt anger rise in his chest. These aliens were threatening not just his crew, but all of humanity. Helen, can they actually find Earth? Yes, Captain. Their ships carry advanced tracking systems. If they return to their fleet, they will lead an invasion force directly to your solar system. Admiral Reynolds looked at Jake with understanding eyes. This is your first command decision as humanity's protector, Captain. What will you do? Jake looked at Amy and Ben. They were scared, but they trusted him to make the right choice. Behind them, Helen waited for his orders. Around them, the most advanced warship humanity had ever built hummed with power. Helen, open a channel to the Kalari fleet. Channel open, Captain. Jake stood up and spoke with a voice that carried across space to the alien ships. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Terra's Vengeance. You have threatened my crew and my home world. I will give you one chance to leave this system peacefully. The response came quickly. Foolish human, your ship is alone against 12 of our finest destroyers. You cannot possibly win, Jake smiled grimly. We're about to find out. Jake watched the main screen as 12 alien ships moved into attack formation. The Kalari vessels looked like giant metal insects with wings spread wide. Each ship was 3 times larger than the USS Navigator, and their hulls glowed with weapon energy. Helen, what are our weapon options? Jake asked. The Terra's Vengeance carries 48 different weapon systems, Captain. Plasma cannons that can melt through any known armor. Gravity bombs that can crush ships into nothing. Energy lances that can pierce through multiple targets at once. Admiral Reynolds stood beside Jake's chair. For your first battle, Captain, I recommend the quantum disruptors. They are clean, fast, and will send a clear message about humanity's new capabilities. Amy looked at her instruments. Captain, those alien ships are moving fast. They'll be in firing range in 10 minutes. Helen, show me the quantum disruptors. The main screen changed to show a cutaway view of the Terra's Vengeance. Jake could see weapon ports opening along the ship's hull. Each port contained a device that looked like a crystal surrounded by spinning metal rings, quantum disruptors. Work by breaking apart the bonds between atoms, Helen explained. They cause enemy ships to simply fall apart at the molecular level. The effect is instant and leaves no debris. Ben stepped closer to the screen. That sounds terrifying. It was designed to be, Commander Parker, Admiral Reynolds said. In the future war, we learned that sometimes the best way to win a battle is to make your enemies too afraid to fight. Jake felt the weight of the decision he was about to make. He was not just fighting for his crew anymore. He was fighting for all of humanity's future. Captain, Helen said, the Kalari are attempting to jam our communications with the USS Navigator. They don't want your crew to call for help. Jake realized that Diana and the rest of his crew were still on the Navigator, probably watching in terror as the alien fleet approached. Can you break through their jamming? Easily, Captain. Kalari technology is thousands of years behind ours. Open a channel to my ship. Diana's voice came through clearly. Captain Morrison, thank God, we're reading 12 alien vessels approaching fast. Should we run? Negative, Diana. Stay where you are and keep recording everything. The people on Earth need to see what happens here. Understood, Captain. Be careful over there. Jake turned back to the main screen. The Kalari ships were now close enough that he could see details on their hulls. They were covered with symbols and markings that looked like battle honors. Admiral Reynolds, have the Kalari fought humans before? Not in your timeline, Captain. But they have been observing humanity for decades. They know about your technology and capabilities. What they don't know is that you now have access to weapons from the future. Helen spoke up. Captain, the Kalari. Commander is requesting a private communication. He wants to speak with you directly. Put him through. The screen changed to show the interior of an alien ship. The Kalari commander was even more frightening in person than in the database images. His 6 arms moved constantly, and his red eyes glowed with intelligence and anger. "Human captain," the alien said in accented English, "I am Fleet Commander, Vextar of the Kalari Empire. I have studied your species for many years. You are brave but foolish. Your ship is impressive, but it cannot stand against 12 of our finest vessels." Jake stood up and faced the alien commander. "Commander Vextar, I'm going to give you one last chance to leave this system. Take your ships and go home. Tell your leaders that humanity is not as weak as they think." The alien's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. "You speak bravely for someone who is about to die. Very well, human. We will destroy your ship and then hunt down your home world. Your species will serve as a warning to others who dare to challenge the established order of the galaxy." The communication ended, and Jake turned to Admiral Reynolds. "Any advice?" "Show them what humanity is capable of, Captain. But remember, this is just the beginning. Word of this battle will spread throughout the galaxy. Make sure the message you send is the right one." Jake sat back down in the captain's chair. "Helen, target the lead Kalari ship with quantum disruptors." "Target locked, Captain. Quantum disruptors are charged and ready." Jake hesitated for a moment. Once he gave this order, there would be no going back. Humanity would be committed to a war that would last for thousands of years. "Fire!" The Terra's Vengeance shuddered slightly as energy flowed through its weapon systems. On the main screen, Jake watched as invisible beams reached out across space toward the Kalari fleet. The lead alien ship simply vanished. One moment it was there, a massive warship with weapons charging. The next moment, there was nothing but empty space. The remaining 11 Kalari ships stopped moving. Jake could imagine the confusion and fear on their bridges as they tried to understand what had just happened. "Helen, are you detecting any communications from the alien fleet?" "Yes, Captain. They are reporting to their commander that the lead ship has been destroyed by an unknown weapon. They are requesting immediate reinforcements." Admiral Reynolds looked pleased. "Perfect, Captain. Now they know they are facing something beyond their understanding." The Kalari ships suddenly spread out and began firing at the Terra's Vengeance. Streams of energy and projectile weapons streaked across space toward them, shields holding at full strength, Helen reported. "Their weapons are having no effect on our defenses." Jake watched as the alien weapons struck their ship and simply disappeared. The Terra's Vengeance didn't even shake under the attack. "Captain," Amy said, studying her instruments, "their energy weapons are actually being absorbed by our shields. We're using their attack to power our own systems." "Helen, target 3 more ships. Fire when ready." 3 more Kalari vessels vanished instantly. The remaining 8 ships stopped firing and began to retreat. "They're running," Ben said. "No," Admiral Reynolds corrected. "They're regrouping. Kalari warriors never retreat, but they will change tactics when faced with superior force." Helen confirmed the Admiral's words. "The remaining ships are forming a new attack pattern. They are preparing to ram us." Jake watched as the 8 alien ships turned and began accelerating directly toward the Terra's Vengeance. Their weapons were charging for a final desperate attack. They would rather die fighting than surrender, Admiral Reynolds explained. "It's both their greatest strength and their greatest weakness." "Helen, can they damage us with a ramming attack?" "Negative, Captain. Our shields and hull armor can withstand the impact of all 8 ships simultaneously. But I don't recommend letting them get that close." Jake made his decision. "Target all remaining ships. Fire at will." The space around them lit up as the Terra's Vengeance fired multiple quantum disruptors at once. The 8 charging Kalari ships vanished one by one until only empty space remained. The battle was over in less than 5 minutes. 12 advanced. Alien warships had been destroyed without causing any damage to the Terra's Vengeance. "Helen, open a channel to the USS Navigator." Diana's voice came through immediately. "Captain, we recorded everything. What were those weapons? I've never seen anything like them." "Weapons from the future, Diana. and this is just the beginning. Jake turned to Admiral Reynolds. What happens now? Now, Captain, you have to decide what to do with the knowledge and power you've been given. The Kalari will report this battle to the Void Syndicate. Within months, every alien species in the galaxy will know that humanity has become a major threat. Amy looked up from her instruments. Captain, I'm detecting something else. There are more ships coming. A lot more ships. Helen's expression became serious. Captain, I'm reading 75 vessels approaching from multiple directions. The Kalari sent out a distress signal before we destroyed them. Every alien patrol in this sector is coming to investigate. Jake felt his heart sink. They had won one battle, but now they faced an entire fleet. Admiral Reynolds, can we fight 75 ships? The Terra's vengeance could fight 1,000 ships and win, Captain. But that's not the question you should be asking. What should I be asking? You should be asking whether you want to start the Galactic War 20,000 years early. Jake stared at the main screen as dozens of alien ships appeared on the sensors. They were coming from every direction, surrounding the Terra's vengeance like hunters closing in on their prey. Helen, how long until they reach us? Jake asked. The first wave will arrive in 30 minutes, Captain. The full fleet will be in position within 2 hours. Admiral Reynolds moved to stand beside Jake's chair. Captain, this is the moment that will define humanity's future. Every decision you make, from now on, will echo through the next 20,000 years. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, I'm identifying ships from at least 6 different alien species. The Kalari must have allies throughout this sector. Jake studied the display showing the approaching fleet. Each group of ships had a different design, representing different alien civilizations that he had never heard of before. Helen, show me what we're facing. The screen changed to display detailed information about each alien species. Jake saw creatures that looked like living crystals, beings made of pure energy, and things that seemed to be part machine and part animal. The blue ships belong to the Zareth Collective, Helen explained. They are energy beings who see physical matter as inferior. The silver vessels are Mokari bioships, grown rather than built. The black triangles are from the Vorth Empire, a machine civilization that believes organic life is a disease. Ben stepped closer to the display. They all hate each other, but they're working together against us? Fear makes strange allies, Commander Parker, Admiral Reynolds said. In the original timeline, these species fought each other for thousands of years. But when humanity began expanding across the galaxy, they put aside their differences to face what they saw as a common threat. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. If we fight them here, we start the war early. If we run, they'll follow us back to Earth. There is a third option, Captain, Helen said. We could try to communicate with them. Admiral Reynolds shook her head. In my experience, Captain, these species don't negotiate with what they consider inferior races. They see humanity as young, violent, and dangerous. Amy checked her instruments again. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups from all the approaching ships. They're preparing for battle. Jake stood up and walked to the main screen. He could see the alien fleet spreading out in complex formations. Each species moved in its own pattern, but they were clearly coordinating their attack. Helen, in the future war, did humanity ever try to make peace with any of these species? Many times, Captain. But the fundamental problem remained the same. They believe the galaxy belongs to the older civilizations. They see humanity as a young species that needs to be controlled or eliminated. Jake turned to Admiral Reynolds. In your opinion, is there any way to avoid this war? The Admiral was quiet for a long moment before answering. Captain, I spent 40 years fighting this war. I saw entire human worlds burn to ash. I watched billions of people die, and in all that time I never found a single alien leader who was willing to accept humanity as an equal. But that was in the original timeline. Jake said. Maybe things can be different this time. Perhaps, Captain. But are you willing to bet the survival of our species on that possibility? Helen interrupted their conversation. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They want to communicate. Jake felt a spark of hope. Put it through. The IA main screen filled with multiple alien faces. Jake recognized the insect-like features of the Kalari, but the others were completely foreign. One looked like a moving crystal formation. Another appeared to be made of swirling energy, and a third seemed to be part machine and part organic tissue. The crystal being spoke first, its voice like the sound of wind chimes. Unknown human vessel, I am Speaker Jantal of the Zarif Collective. We have witnessed your destruction of the Kalari Patrol. Your weapons are beyond our current understanding. The energy being spoke next, its voice crackling with electricity. I am Flux Commander Torgon of the Mokari Alliance. Your actions here have violated the ancient laws of this sector. You will surrender your vessel for study or face the combined might of our fleets. Jake stepped forward. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Terra's Vengeance. We were exploring this system when your Kalari allies attacked us without warning. We defended ourselves. The machine being's voice was cold and emotionless. I am processing Unit 7 of the Vorth Empire. Your species is young and aggressive. You have developed weapons that threaten the stability of galactic civilization. This cannot be allowed, Admiral Reynolds whispered to Jake. They're afraid, Captain. For the first time in thousands of years, they've encountered a species that might be more advanced than they are. Jake made his decision. Alien commanders, humanity has no desire for war with your civilizations. We are explorers, not conquerors, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. The crystal being's form shifted colors. Your words speak of peace, but your weapons speak of war. No young species should possess such destructive power. We didn't ask for these weapons, Jake replied, but we won't hesitate to use them if... You threaten our people! The energy being crackled brighter. You will surrender your vessel now, or we will take it by force. Your choice, human. Jake looked around the bridge at Amy and Ben, then at Admiral Reynolds and Helen. They were all waiting for his decision. Helen, if we fight this fleet, can we win? Yes, Captain. But the battle will be witnessed by ships from dozens of other alien civilizations. Word will spread throughout the galaxy that humanity has become a major military power, Admiral Reynolds added. And once that happens, Captain, every alien empire will see humanity as a threat. The war will be inevitable. Amy stepped forward. Captain, maybe that's not a bad thing. If they're going to attack us eventually anyway, maybe it's better to face them when we have these advanced weapons. Ben nodded. She's right, Captain. In the original timeline, humanity was caught unprepared. This time, we have the advantage. Jake turned back to the alien commanders on the screen. I'm going to give you one chance to leave this system peacefully. Take your fleets and go home. Tell your leaders that humanity is not their enemy, but we will not be their victims either. The machine being's response was immediate. Unacceptable. You will surrender or be destroyed. The transmission ended, and Jake watched as the alien fleet began moving into attack formation. 75 ships, from 6 different civilizations, all united in their determination to destroy or capture the Terra's vengeance. Helen, charge all weapon systems. Prepare for battle. All weapons charged and ready, Captain. Shall I activate the ghost protocols? Jake looked at Admiral Reynolds. What are the ghost protocols? The Terra's vengeance can create holographic copies of itself, Captain. To the enemy sensors, it will appear that you have an entire fleet rather than just one ship. Jake smiled grimly. Do it. The space around them suddenly filled with dozens of ships that looked exactly like the Terra's vengeance. To the alien fleet, it would appear that humanity had brought a massive force to this battle. Captain, Amy said, watching her instruments, the alien ships are hesitating. They weren't expecting to face an entire human fleet. Jake opened a channel. To all the alien ships. Alien commanders, you now see what you're really facing. This is your last chance to withdraw. The response came from all 6 alien leaders at once. We do not surrender to inferior species. Attack! Jake sat back in the captain's chair and prepared to change the course of galactic history. Helen, show them what humanity is capable of. Fire at will.